an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV. Bringing you the greatest hits from 1996, call in with your requests now. The Great Return, after the vacation. In these chapters, Eddard gets attacked in the street. In the street in front of everybody who's all looking out their windows like they live in fucking Northwest Philly and they're just trying to mind their business and not get involved. And honestly, I'm not mad at them for that at all. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Some spoiled. This might be. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. And so we're back.
I'm going to be a little rusty. It's been 2 weeks since
I know.
Last. Sorry, everybody.
This is the first one since you've been first recording since vacation.
Yeah.
All right, kids,
And,
you're in for a good time.
Everybody's had to wait. What are you doing over there?
Sorry, I'm trying to. Never mind.
Why do you ever do anything? That's my main question. You think I can't hear shit?
Well, no, it's not. I was just trying to tidy up my area.
Why? Why now? We talked for 2.5 hours.
The conversation was so engrossing.
Good God. I gotta add another square to the bingo card now. Rashawn tidying her area.
What month are those cards for?
This month,
Okay.
I'm just sending them out. I just finished them this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Make sure nobody
Everything
stole
is late
mine.
because when I would order them from Moo before, I would get them in like a week and change. And ever since COVID, it's taking almost 3 weeks to get them, even.
Oh.
So I ordered them like the beginning of the second week in November, and they didn't arrive until I was on vacation already in December.
Shit.
It took forever. So sorry, everybody, that everything's been late, but this is not my fault this time.
I mean, it's the whole world right
Yeah.
now, so, you know.
So, all right. Let's talk about the Catelyn chapter. The chapters this time are Catelyn, Eddard, Daenerys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear this cat? Oh, she's so loud.
Why did she wait till we were recording to start? We were just talking for 2 hours. I didn't hear a peep out of her.
Owen just got home, and he went straight into his office to play a video game, and I think she's pissed because she expected him to come home and worship at her feet.
How dare.
And
How dare he?
Yeah, it's
Forget who's in charge.
She is just so needy.
Listen,
Sometimes.
I don't want to bore you all to tears with my cat chronicles. But
That's what your podcast should be.
my cat chronicles.
Yeah, I like it.
But yeah, the two over here have been they've been in rare form as of late. I don't know if it's like them being sketched out because we're packing and stuff. They know that something is afoot. Mm-hmm. But they have been leaning 100% into their cattiness. They're giving me full cat.
I love it.
It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, y'all.
100% cat.
100% cat. It's my apartment is too small for 100% cat. I can 75, 80% cat tops. Is what I can work with.
I'm pleased that after us going away, when we came home, she had not pissed all over the house.
That is amazing.
It's progress for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Sorry, everybody. Catelyn. I know we were talking about the cats. It's the wrong one.
I was just about to... Ooh, a nice segue.
Woo! So Kat's chapter is really long.
It is, y'all.
But it's a lot of traveling and her experience traveling.
Yeah,
and like, there's not a whole lot in that regard that we need to talk about, except for her being on the edge of a fucking precipice at one point.
I want to mention that part. I have to say, my brain kind of like shut down briefly.
During the precipice?
Yes, because...
Why is that?
Because just listening to it gave me vertigo.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I was like in my little, office chair working from home today, and I had to like sit up straight and grab like the handle to my chair for a minute and be like, all right,
that's good
fine.
writing, man.
Yeah, it was, whew. But then I got really irrationally upset because this nice little girl is offering to lead them to safety, and Kat hears her last name is Stone, and it's just like, bastard child.
And it's a little more nuanced than that. I'm Rebecca Bunch, where really it seems like what George R. R. Martin is trying to say is that her reminding Catelyn of how she behaved towards Jon is really what bothers her. But it reads in the first instant as her just being like,
it absolutely
fuck
does.
This bastard bitch.
Yeah. She catches herself, and I don't want to put my own words in, but I feel like she says something or thinks something to herself like she felt uneasy or like, like a little bit ashamed of how...
Guilt.
Yeah, right. Because I
think that was the word he used.
The reaction she has is so sudden and visceral, it almost feels like it catches her by surprise.
Yeah.
And she's just like, whoa. Mm-hmm. So she checks herself in her behavior, at least. Yeah. Because when the little girl shows up, Catelyn is all like smiling and like, and then she hears that she's a bastard and the smile like goes off her face.
Yeah.
But then she like puts it back on.
She tries to recover.
So, but that
scene where she's on that cliff edge, I am really afraid of heights, guys. Like, if I could say I have a phobia about anything, that would be it. And I have had a time where I was like doing one of those sort of like, I'm trying to think. It's like a combination of like a trust exercise, but there was no other person involved in it. It was on one of those courses that you could do like zip lines and stuff.
No, thank you.
And you had to climb to the top of this, like, basically a phone pole.
Nope.
And a 2x4 jutted out perpendicular. You had to walk to the end of it and then jump from there to grab the trapeze. That was, like, just far enough out you couldn't reach it by just reaching.
Nope.
And there was a net under you to catch you, and you were in a harness, so there was no danger of actually getting hurt. But I stood at the end of that 2x4, and I couldn't move. I couldn't do it. Like this moment where she freezes up and literally can't do it. I completely have been there. And it's so frustrating because you can know in your intellectual mind that things are going to be fine. And your body has just decided it is out of service. And
yep. That's why
we'll come back later.
Consider it like irrational, It just... I have not been in the situation you just described because I am not a crazy person. I would not have climbed up that.
I don't think I realized how severe my fear was until I did that. I knew I had a fear, but I think I expected that the safety measures would make it so it wouldn't get to me, and I was very, very wrong.
Yeah, I am ridiculously afraid of heights and am just immovable when it comes to that, because I know for a fact that I would absolutely freeze up. And then how am I getting the fuck down?
Right? I wound up having to just jump.
Well, that's the thing, because those type of situations that you just described, like climbing up and then getting on a little plank, those are almost always one-way situations. Like, you can't climb back down it usually.
Yeah.
And, no.
Yeah, weirdly, when it came time to jump, it was easier for me to just jump down and know that I'm falling than to jump forward and try and grab the thing and miss.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm just jumping and I know that that's all it is I'm jumping to fall, I can get behind that more easily than trying to jump and accomplish something, because then you're gonna fall. Let's be honest. I'm not gonna grab that trapeze. And then what? Then I'm just now everything is ruined.
And Catelyn, this is her first trip to the Eyrie, right?
I think so.
So she,
actually,
you know, she like Ned has described it to her, and there's a couple of moments where she's like noticing things and remembering what he's told her about it. But it's not like she has any experience making this trip, and they're going up at night.
Yeah, because
Lysa's crazy ass has insisted that, you know, Cat get there, you know, expeditiously.
Yep.
So they're climbing up this crazy fucking incline mountain weird place in the dark with goats and shit. Well, I don't think they're goats. Maybe they're... Are they mules?
I think they're mules that they're riding, but goats I think do factor in places probably.
And I felt like I didn't feel like Cat was being unreasonable or hysterical or anything of that. I was just like 100% like, yes, close your eyes and stop moving. That's what you do here. You live here now. This is it. You live on the side of this mountain.
I love when what is the girl's name? Maya?
I do
Stone?
Sure.
She is like, okay, don't move. And Catelyn's like, no fucking problem. That is absolutely not happening no matter how much you try and prod me anyway. So I will just stand here and wait for death.
You'll be glad to know that wasn't really an option for me anyway. So.
And then basically she tells her, keep your eyes closed the whole time now. Slide your foot forward just a little bit. And that's exactly how you would have to handle me for sure.
And, when her chapter starts, they have been greeted by her uncle's party, right?
Right.
And some people, like, there's only a couple of people left. Bronze left. That fucking what do you call him? The fucking musician,
oh my god,
the troubadour or whatever. He's still around. She has a great line too,
Marillion,
where she's basically like, "Why is this motherfucker still here?" I didn't even ask him to come, first of all, and then so many good men have died, and yet this one somehow managed to like make it, and he managed it because he's a coward. Yeah, and he probably hid every time they got attacked a couple different times, and he was hiding each time. But they're talking about who's going to go up to the Eyrie and who's going to like wait behind, because Catelyn's man is wounded and not doing well at all.
Yeah.
And he can like barely sit on his horse at this point. They've got him like tied to it and shit. Mm-hmm. So it's decided that Tyrion will stay behind. Is it Sir Roderick that has been traveling with Catelyn? Who is it?
Yeah, Roderick's traveling with her, and she, Donald and Brendan are the ones that meet them. Right.
So Tyrion's going to stay behind. Sir Roderick's going to stay behind. The singer has asked if he can go ahead up to the Eyrie, and then Bronn is like, you know what? I think I'll go too. And then she has another moment like, I didn't ask fucking... I don't want you to come.
She's like, as you will, but she's very keenly aware that he didn't ask her permission. No, he was just telling her what he was about to do.
He was like, yeah, I'll come too. Fucking Bronn.
And I like that she's like, he fought well and all of this, but I see how cozy he is with Tyrion.
She doesn't come out and say he's not loyal, but she's basically saying he's not loyal, can't be trusted. But my thing is like, bitch, he's a sellsword.
Yeah.
You knew that when you bought him. What are you talking about right now? Like, holding it against him because he's, for sale?
And she says that he has no kindness in him, is the other thing, which I think might be more of the problem than anything.
I don't know. Well, it's funny, too, because if through the television show, Bronn, who I don't know if kindness is the word, but there's a warmth that's given to his character that I don't know if that's going to exist in the books or not, Like the show did this thing where he was always saying that all you have to do is pay me.
Right.
Every time you turn around, Bronn was basically telling you, I'll do anything for money. But actually, his behavior was... and his charm, you, as a character, you don't think of him like that. Even though every other time you turn around, he was telling you. Mm-hmm. So, my first instinct when she says that there's no kindness in his eyes, I'm like, what are you talking about? Bronn's great. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, I'm not saying whether or not Bronn specifically is an example of this, but it's certainly true of the show that because they had to, really consolidate characters in general, because there are so many in the series, and because the show was very interested in making things entertaining, in a way that the books are entertaining in a different way. They hyped up certain characters that, in some cases, were very, very nothing. Or they gave them a whole different thing. And I'm not going to get into, obviously, spoilers on specific people. But as we go through the series, there are going to be people that pop up that you're going to start to realize, oh, they were so-and-so in the show. And they won't even have the same name. Oh. But you'll, recognize situations or, behavioral lines they had or whatever, and you'll realize, oh, they pulled that guy's deal into this other character.
That should be fun.
It's just that there's a lot of that because they can't add a fucking new person for each damn thing,
right.
And making somebody a little bit more likable in some ways than they were otherwise. It adds a little bit of in the books, whether somebody's likable or not, you still find them interesting because you get so much more of them and who they are from other people's perspectives that you get engaged and invested based on the situations of the people they are linked with.
Right.
But they can't really do that in the show, so they have to make somebody sort of likable on their own in a different way,
One of the things I know that you get a lot in television, sometimes in the movies, but to my mind, television, because it's serialized, so you're coming to meet these characters over a longer story arc, is that you might have a character in a book that is important and interesting, but not very likable. But then when it's time for them to be portrayed on television, by sheer amount of time that you spend with the character, unless they are just completely cruel and sadistic, like Joffrey, almost to be cartoonish, you can't help but find yourself starting to like these characters.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of time you spend with them, I don't know what, you look at some of the, you guys will forgive me for this expression, but some of the bad guys of the TV show, right? Cersei, Jaime, even Tywin.
Yeah.
After you spend time with them, you're kind of like, oh, well, Tywin's making some good points, though. He doesn't, he's terrible, but is he wrong? And you end up being like, oh, I kind of like this character. And I don't know if the same is true for books. I feel like you can have a character that's bad, that's cruel, that's not likable, but you can still enjoy reading about them without finding yourself becoming attached to them.
Definitely. Yeah. And I'm I've said this on everything I've ever covered. I am a sucker for a smart character as well. Even if they are a bad guy. If you give me perspective from them, and they seem to be making smart choices that make sense to me, even if those choices are despicable. If they make sense in terms of what I know this character's goal is, I can still get sort of invested in them as a person, simply because it's almost like a video game where you're like, all right, well, I'm playing as a bad guy. Let me see if I can get as a bad guy. And I'm watching them make choices I would also have made were I terrible.
Right. Imagine, if you will, I were terrible.
Let's nudge that dial. It's right now, I would say, at about 55-45. Let's nudge it to 75-25.
See how that works.
Guys, there are so many times that I for an instant, wish that I could just let myself be a bad person because I would be very profitable. I could do a lot if I were a bad person.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's just true. I feel like that's just the true thing for all of us, you know?
Not all of us, though. There are a lot of bad people who are stupid bad people.
Fair.
And they fuck up bad and also shoot themselves in the foot in the process.
True. That is true.
But, yeah, I'm trying to not be bad. And yet I still managed to do it anyway.
Has been a rash of ATM heists in Philadelphia since the summer. Someone or someones, have been blowing up ATMs.
Blowing them up?
Blowing them up.
And what, are they going and spending singed dollar bills?
Well, they've been getting away with the money. And it's some kind of small explosive that just sort of pops the front of the machine off.
Wow.
And there's,
I
want to say maybe almost 20 machines have been hit. And as far as I know, they've only caught one guy.
Holy shit.
I don't know, ATMs are, famously difficult to break into because, they have to be. People are always stealing them, and then you can't get them to fuck open, like that Breaking Bad episode.
Oh my god, that's so...
But yeah, so that's somebody who's bad, but also apparently kind of clever.
It's a victimless crime.
Yeah, really.
I can't get mad at blowing up an ATM.
They're not robbing banks. They're not traumatizing $9 an hour bank employees.
Yeah, all right, go off, I guess.
So that's my feeling about Bronn when she is just like, oh, I don't, he doesn't any kindness in his eyes, and I see how he's cozying up to Lannister, and they got the little private jokes, which you know what, it turns out to be, she was kind of right though.
The thing is, even Brynden starts falling for Tyrion's shtick. And I love it. She gets real salty at one point because they're talking about well, you're going to take the basket up and get hauled in like a pumpkin or a pile of turnips. And Tyrion's just like, ha ha, we have some pride. My father wouldn't like to hear about that. And she's like, pride? Well, maybe arrogance, you fucking fuck. And she's thinking to herself how he's being too casual with everybody. I don't like it.
You fucking fuck.
Have you ever had this happen, though, where, somebody that's, either you don't like for some irrational reason or for a very rational reason.
Oh, okay.
Everyone else seems to like them, and you're just watching, and you're just I hate this.
Yes.
I hate it. Oh, I have been there, man, and...
Yeah, it's...
I felt for her a little bit, even though she's wrong about everything with him.
That's the thing, too, right? I had to remind myself a couple of times, because she has this whole monologue, or inner monologue, where she's wondering if maybe she made a mistake. What if he didn't do it? What if he's telling the truth? But then quickly she's like, no. It's too late. I've already fucking set the shit in motion. There's no time for that. And I was surprised it took this long to get a moment in her head where she's just like, what if I really fucked up?
He's not helping his own case, though, with his little, I am as innocent as a newborn lamb. Tyrion, We know you're innocent, and I don't believe you when you say that. Like, don't do that. You're not helping yourself.
You know, it's almost like there's a part of his personality that will not allow him to, except for at the very, very beginning when he first tells her, like, he's basically at the fucking end, where he's like, I didn't do this. And he's like being honest and straightforward and trying to convince her that he's innocent. Mm-hmm. The minute she takes him into custody, though, it's like something in his brain is just like, I'm not going to give her the fucking satisfaction.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let her see me sweat and squirm and, anything else.
Yep.
I'm going to use the tools that I've always used to get through bullshit. And even though I don't know if maybe I'm projecting, but I feel like Tyrion, remember a couple chapters ago where he's making like jokes and he notices like who laughs and stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has zeroed in that Bronn is somebody he can reach.
Yeah.
And that if he could just get like some real alone time to make a real offer, which he ends up getting later, but we didn't get to that yet, that he knows Bronn will take him up on it. Mm-hmm. So she's right to be looking at them kind of sideways.
It's not like, I'm not mad at her for like you said, she's correct and she's perceptive of the fact that like tides have shifted. But I feel like really what it comes down to is I know she's wrong. And I know that when Catelyn is not being this unreasonable, because she just, I don't feel handled this smartly. She and Tyrion could get along, I feel like. But then I immediately follow that up with like, maybe
I feel like she's even under the best of circumstances, I feel like Winterfell before Bran was pushed out the window was like the best set of circumstances. And, she's so uptight.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he would enjoy her company, and she definitely wouldn't know how to enjoy his company,
I guess, like, really what it is in the end is I'm going, Catelyn, you're only hurting yourself because you could be enjoying this hilarious guy who's very clever. And instead you're over here squinting at him. And then squinting at everybody else.
But you know what? Like, it feels like she spent her whole life squinting at people. She's just a squinter. She just
She squints at the wrong fucking people, though, man.
Yeah, it's true. It is absolutely true. Because, look how she treated Jon. She's spent his whole life squinting. So
I guess that's going to become our new shorthand now.
I think I like it better, yeah. But so eventually she does get up to the Eyrie, and we meet the Blackfish for the first time.
Isn't he wonderful?
He is just great, and I know he showed up at the end of the show. I cannot remember if this scene in the show he was part of. Can't remember, but I enjoyed him tremendously. And he tries to warn her that, like, your sister is not who she was.
Yep.
Not only did the time in King's Landing really do a number on her, but I guess losing all of those children did a number on her. Having the one child survive who's sickly, having a husband that she married for political reasons, and Catelyn's like, well, I did the same thing, but her uncle is like, yeah, but your marriage turned into something else. Yeah. And Lysa's did not. John Aaron was like a good he says he was dutiful. He was a dutiful husband. Which, that's not how you want anybody to describe it. Right? That's not what you're looking for.
And also, you had a passel of healthy children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and your husband hasn't been murdered yet. So, they get there, and there's like this really like nice reunion at first. And then they get behind closed doors, and she turns around, and she's a whole different bitch.
I loved this. I had completely forgotten that it went like this.
She is not here for cat shenanigans, bringing all this drama to her fucking front door without even the courtesy of a warning that they were on the way.
Yeah.
Cat has done this insane thing. And the Lannisters, who Lysa is terrified of, Cat has basically just, like, poked them right in the eye and then ran to her sister's house. And meanwhile, her sister is just like, wait, what?
I don't know her. Fucking Jory winds up killed, like all of Ned's men, because of what she chose to do here. She just figured they were gonna sit there and take it and not.
I guess.
Like you offered an incredible insult with no evidence.
No evidence. Took it upon yourself. Captured a very highborn person with like deep pockets and a lot of influence, or family anyway. Deep pockets and influence. And your husband is down in King's Landing practically alone without any real allies that could be counted on. And she just, like, has put her husband in danger, put her rest of her family in danger, showed up at Lysa's, put them on the spot. And for what?
Yeah.
On Peter Baelish's word? When you look back
every
at your
time
life
that we
choices,
bring it back to the fact that it was Peter Baelish, it's so much worse.
It is.
It's just like, oh, girl, what are you doing?
I just, and I just, ugh. So we also meet Robin. I forgot about the breastfeeding. Y'all.
How did you forget about that? That's all I think about whenever I think about Lysa Arryn. I just think of her titties.
I did not want that in my head. I rebuked it. I cast it out.
I wish I could have done that.
And how old is he supposed to be here? Like 7 or 8?
Something like that. I think she says, I think he's like 6. Because she says that Rickon is half his age, a 2.5. So I think he's like 5 or 6.
Okay. I guess that's not that. I mean, I really don't know anything about breastfeeding, guys. Don't get me to talk. I don't know.
It's the thing is that I know that there are actually a lot of like documented health benefits to continuing to breastfeed into an age that most of us would consider very unconventional.
Yeah, it's true. Like until your toddlers, I think at least like 2, like 3 is considered very good, like supplemental. But reading this reminded me not so much of just like the act of it being, unpleasant, but it reminded me of the shot from the show, which I think we can all agree was very unpleasant.
I will never, and I think that the shot in the show, it's a prosthetic titty.
I think it's so.
Like, but it's so sudden and the camera's so close up on it and it's so startling.
Yeah.
And it's like the nipple is described as red in the book, and I really feel like they went for that in the show where they were just like, yeah, we're going to make that nipple look sore as hell because I could be chomping on it with his full-ass teeth that he has now. You
can definitely tell that when they were doing this for the show, they were like little marks on the book about, this part, we definitely got to do this. We got to shoot this, You can absolutely tell that was like something they were like, ooh, wait till everybody sees this. Yeah. Which became a much bigger problem for the show down the road.
Yes, sir.
So they have quite a bit of an honest, heated conversation. Because Lysa is basically like, you're bringing these problems to me. How dare you do this? And Candace's like, hold up, bitch. You sent me the letter talking about how they killed your husband.
Yep.
Don't make it seem like I started something with the Lannisters that hadn't already, been impacting your life. And why would you send me this letter? And she's like, I just wanted to give you a warning so you could protect yourself, not like go out after them.
Yeah, it's just like, I sent that to you so that you would know to stay away from them. Not to fucking go and capture one and drag it back to my house. Which is the opposite of everything I wanted, which is why I am here and not in King's Landing, you fuck. And honestly, in that moment, I kind of was like, well, I get it. I understand that reaction.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Catelyn took some liberties.
But
there's no way around it.
What do you, being like, well, I just wanted you to know so you could stay away from them. There's not, you don't really get that choice in this universe. You don't get to just be like, oh, here's the royal family. We just are going to choose to not interact with them.
And the other thing, too, is, I don't know how news travels. And I know on the show, Varys had a time machine or whatever the joke was about Varys being able to travel around so fast. What was it, like a portal or a transporter?
People talked about a train and shit. There was all kinds of jokes about that. But teleportation.
So I don't know about the news, but Lysa sends the letter to Cat warning about what she thinks the Lannisters did to Jon Arryn, and at the same time, wheels are in motion to go to Winterfell to recruit Ned to be Hand. Mm-hmm. So she sends this air quotes warning to her sister. I mean, did she think that she was going to be able to convince them not to go to King's Landing? Or, warning her, but what is she supposed to do with that warning?
That's exactly what I mean. You don't get to choose to just not interact with people of that station.
Right.
It's not like she's like, oh, stay away from the
Royces.
Right, just pick a fucking... Okay, fine, I'll do that. But, these are the Lannisters. They practically own the fucking country right now. So, yeah. And I love the fact that Lysa is... I feel like it's sort of played a lot more, gross in the show for the sake of, a comedic / pathetic thing, that she is so delusional about her son's health. Mm-hmm. But in the book, I feel like they do a better job of explaining how she lost several children already.
Yeah.
And so there's this, combination of really being paranoid about her child's health, mm-hmm. and also not, she is somewhere that she feels like she is safe at the moment, but that hinges on her son in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And him being the heir.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's understandable for her to continue to try and tout that he's so strong and healthy, mm-hmm. even though anybody who looks at him can see that's not true.
The one thing she even says to Kat, look how strong he is. Don't believe what everyone else is saying, or something along those lines. And the point about how important it is for her son to not just live, but to be healthy enough to take on his role, mm-hmm. is there's talk with the Blackfish before they get to the Eyrie about how people are already wondering, what she should do. People are saying that she should get remarried, which I'm like, God damn, her husband just died. How much time has passed?
It's like buying a new car, man.
Apparently.
You need a husband in this world. It's just a fucking practicality.
So they're talking about, who is a potential match, and that she's resistant, and that also... I guess the king, his name, was it Jaime? Ward of the whatever, instead of Jon Arryn? Not Jon Arryn, instead of Robin?
Oh, I forgot about
this. Because
Jaime?
I feel like I think it was Jaime.
What a weird choice.
Right? Because
let me look and see if it's mentioned in the notes.
Yeah, check it, because I might have the wrong Lannister. But I know it was a Lannister. I just don't know who else it could have been if not Jaime. But it could have been some cousin.
Sorry, I have, the notes are they're all in one document, so I have to scroll for a while to get to the chapters that we're in.
But what was I going to say while you were doing that? So, yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
So, they have named someone, not Lysa and not Robin, as whatever of the East, since Jon Arryn has died. Mm-hmm. And Lysa is telling her people that that doesn't count.
Oh, right.
Right? So it's kind of like this thing where, the people of the Vale are kind of, humoring her, but have already decided that she's not in charge. Mm-hmm. And that the son is that doesn't mean anything either, whether because of his age or his, perceived impairment. So she's in Lysa is in a very, very vulnerable position right now.
Yeah.
That could just be knocked asunder by, like, anything. And she's so paranoid that at one point, I think Kat wants to know if the Maester can come and see to Sir Roderick. And they have to be like, no, he's not allowed to leave.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And then there's another thing where it's mentioned that Lysa's not letting, like, any of her swordsmen leave either. Like, everybody has to be right there surrounding her and her son. And fuck everything else. And fuck everybody else. Like, when Kat asks for help for Sir Roderick, the guy is like, can't send the Maester, I can get the Sept to come down. She's like, I don't need prayers.
Great, that's super helpful.
She's like, I don't need anybody to come pray for him. I need somebody to come tend to his wound.
I'm looking at the notes. Is there something more to Robin's illness and all of Lysa's miscarriages?
Ooh.
That's an interesting question. There are people who suspect... Oh, right. I forgot about this. I'm not telling you, though, because there's some elements about this that you've forgotten that I'm not going to remind you of.
Wait,
we'll
what?
bring it up a little bit later.
You're not going to tell me about what now?
Nothing. I won't tell you about the AA. Nothing at all. It doesn't mention here who has been assigned to the warden position. But if it's Jamie, that just feels so inappropriate because he just is not the guy for that show.
There's also a thing, too, where Lysa starts to tell Kat about how strong Robin is, and she says even John knew it. His last words were, "The seed is strong."
Oh,
and she
my
thinks
God.
he was talking about...
Because he's talking about Robert, and they named their kid Robert. So she's just like, yes, sweetie, exactly. Oh, honey.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is unfortunate for her. Like, it's kind of sad. And Catelyn, when she sees her sister too, she's like, "Oh, she looks bad."
Yeah.
She looks
used
bad.
to be beautiful, or at least like sort of beautiful, and now there's none of that left.
She's like basically calls her eyes watery blue eyes, like the blue eyes that were the trademark of the Tullys, but hers are all fucking like watery and.
Oh, Jamie is, yes.
It is Jamie?
You are correct.
Oh, okay.
I went and looked it up. Yeah, I always feel bad when you meet a pair of siblings and like. On paper, their appearance is very similar. They both have the same color hair, same color eyes. They're both like, maybe slender, or both plump or whatever. And yet one of them is just so much hotter than the other. And you're like, oh, honey, how can you just have all of that on paper and then it just didn't work out for you? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I have brothers and sisters, so I'm going to be quiet because I don't know which one of them in that scenario. So I'm just going to...
I will let you get away with that. I want to put you on the spot, but I'm not going to do it because I'm a nice squirrel.
I may think I'm one, and someone else might think I'm the other. So I'm just...
So yeah, this whole conversation with Lysa, I remember being really startled by when I read it the first time because when she's so delighted to see Kat, it just feels like the natural reaction.
And then...
it just feels like, yeah, she's happy to see her sister after such a long time, and Kat really falls for it. She's like, oh, it has been a long time. It's been like 5 years, and she really goes all in with this whole bit, and then is abruptly disabusive.
Yes. As soon as that door closed.
Just so embarrassing.
And, so they have this back and forth, and then, Robin is the one that says the thing about maybe we can make him fly.
Yeah.
And Lysa's like, maybe we will. Which is a really funny turnaround because she just got done talking about how she doesn't want any part of this, right? And you brought all this to my door, And now she's really contemplating throwing Tyrion out the fucking whatever that giant hole in the floor is, or whatever.
The moon door.
The moon door. And it's so quick that I don't know what to, like, is it just because he suggested it and she just never says no to anything? Or does she really think that this is a reasonable way to extricate themselves from this situation?
I'm not sure she's, like, thinking it through at all, so much as just, like, hey, I really don't want this weed that you just handed me. I'm going to flush it down the toilet. Like, it feels like the end of Goodfellas situation where his wife has the coke and she's just running around the house desperately tearing open the package. And, you know, later on when he's like, why the fuck did you do that? She doesn't have a good answer for why she did that. She's just like, she just reacted, you know? And I kind of feel like that's what Lysa's sort of feeling in this moment. She may change her mind when she's had a night to sleep on it.
Oh my God. I just think it's really funny that she would go from not wanting any of this anywhere near her to being like, yeah, let's just throw this motherfucker out the window. Because that seems like you're getting super involved.
Yeah, I agree with that.
At least up until this point, she has sort of plausible deniability. Like, I didn't know this bitch was going to do this. I did not tell her to bring him to my house. We are not in cahoots. You know what I mean? And now she's like going all in on it. But, I mean, to your point about flushing the coke down the toilet, sometimes that is just the only thing left to do.
You just don't think clearly, and you're just like, I just want it away from me, you know? And, like, not for nothing, people just don't think things through a lot of the time. Catelyn clearly didn't, you know?
True.
Like, Catelyn gets a note from her sister about how I'm pretty sure that these people, like, murdered my husband and are behind this whole plot. And Catelyn's like, I think I'm going to kidnap one of them. Like, that's not what a smart person would do in response to information that somebody is treacherous.
It's true.
And that their family is treacherous.
It's true.
You kidnap all of them.
If it's possible.
Then sure. Yeah. But you can't just take the one and then have your back turned. Like...
And if, like, she gets the letter from Lysa warning about the Lannisters, then she gets the lie from Peter that they were behind killing Bran. Not killing Bran, but knocking Bran out the window. That would have been a good time to send, like, a little bird to your husband and be like, hey, what do you think we should do? And then maybe he comes home?
She seemed to think if she waited, it would be, like, she would lose her chance. And that is the part that I have the most trouble with, is your chance at what? If you feel you have a strong enough case, you should be, like, if the only way that you feel you're going to get any sort of, quote, justice is by scooping him up and spiriting him to this, like, far-reach area where nobody can follow up, then you have to know how dangerous it is that you're making this choice. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you would be willing to wait until you've discussed it and follow through in whatever the normal course of the law would be.
Well, it was another one of those flushing the coke down the toilet moments for her, though, because she panicked. I don't even know if it was really a thought like, if I don't grab him now, I'll never get another chance at justice. She just, like, when he realized who she was, just panicked. Mm-hmm. When she could have just been like, hey, on my way home, how are you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's funny too, because whenever you're reading something like this or watching television, it's always fun to be like, you know, well, if that were me, I would do X, Y, and Z. But y'all, I haven't had no kids pushed out the window. I don't know what I would do.
I mean, I keep on thinking about that in terms of, at the very least, she had been trying to hide that she had gone to King's Landing at all. Mm-hmm. So him seeing her fucked that up for her in that, oh, now he's aware that I was on the road and that's where I just was, which that sucks, and obviously.
But what would the real harm have come to her just because she was in King's Landing for
that is the question. because it feels like she's just so worried about them even knowing. And I'm like, if you're that worried about them even being aware you were there, this makes even less sense to do that.
Yeah.
It's
Agreed.
just so, I keep trying to be like, oh, give her a break. And then I'm like, no, I will not give her a break. This was a bad plan. It wasn't even a plan.
It was not a plan.
It's just the flushing the Coke situation. We're just going to use that as shorthand now for doing something on instinct that's not smart or good or helpful to anybody. I mean, that's basically what Jaime Lannister pulls in the street also.
Listen! What is happening? What is everybody doing?
Everybody's just flushing Coke all over the place. There is not a single usable toilet because they are clogged to the brim with sopping wet cocaine.
Oh my god! Everybody is on the street fiending and shit, going through withdrawals because people are just flushing all the Coke down the toilets. So I think,
all right, let's go into Ned's chapter.
Yeah, fucking Ned.
Mm-hmm.
You take this one.
This goes so. I forgot what happens here. Entirely forgot. Because he's with Littlefinger and he goes to this brothel. Mm-hmm. And Littlefinger's out here chilling with a black woman in a feathered gown. By the hearth, a Heward and a buxom wench were playing at forfeits. From the look of it, he'd lost his belt, his cloak, his mail shirt, his right boot so far, while the girl had just been forced to unbutton her shift to the waist. And Jory's just sort of standing by, watching, being like, you. So, fucking Littlefinger can't resist pressing Ned's buttons.
He really can't. He's
You
so
speak
childish.
with the king's voice, rule with the king's sword. Does that mean you also fuck with the king's Lord Baelish? You presume too much. You do, Lord Baelish. He is correct.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Honestly, if I were in his situation in Littlefinger's, I don't know if I'd be able to resist either, because Ned is so humorless at times. And he's so clueless. And if I'm Littlefinger, as not only as well-versed in court intrigue as I am anyway, just in the best of times, but also we know that Littlefinger's got some plans cooking that Ned knows nothing about.
Right.
That smugness can't help but bubble up sometimes.
And sprinkle on a little bit of saltiness about Cat. Mm-hmm. You're gonna take those shots when they become available.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. Have you seen When Harry Met Sally? Mm-hmm. Do you remember the talk that she has with her girlfriends when she goes and tells them that, like, her and her boyfriend broke up, and Carrie Fisher is like, well, if you don't meet the right guy, suppose he marries somebody else, and you'll have to go to bed every night knowing that somebody else is sleeping with your husband. And I keep thinking that with Littlefinger. He's just going to bed every night knowing that somebody else is sleeping with his wife. And that's just part of his,
it's just
fucking obsession. And just, every time he sees Ned, he's like, you fucking fuck.
Basically, I feel like that's exactly what he's thinking every time. Every time. And plus, Littlefinger is, too smart for his own good and thinks he's even smarter than that. So.
And it's such a perfect, what is he going to have in common with Kat? We know Kat.
Right.
Can you imagine her married to fucking Littlefinger?
Listen.
What does that look like?
Nothing good. She
would have nothing but contempt for him.
Absolutely. She would. I mean, where is he taking her home to? One of his brothels in King's Landing? She could never be with someone who made that his business.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if she's that different from any other noble woman of this time and of this world, but definitely she could not abide that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else he's going to be able to do to get him the kind of money he needs to get the kind of power he wants, other than this type of industry. So, what else was he going to do?
He does this whole, I've decided that I'm going to just keep buying brothels. They're much sounder investments than ships. Whores seldom sink. When they're boarded by pirates, why the pirates pay good coin like everyone else. Lord Pitire chuckled at his own wit.
Oh my god, this fucking guy, y'all.
I keep picturing fucking, the guy from Die Hard. Except that guy's bad at his job. But you know the one, Han, Bobby.
I have not seen Die Hard.
Rashawn. All right, well, my two favorite Christmas movies are Die Hard and Home Alone, and you haven't seen either one of them, and I just feel a lot of feelings about that. So, next year, for the wedding, we're just going to have a Home Alone, Die Hard evening.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't have any feelings about Die Hard. I haven't, actively avoided it, even though it must feel like it to people because it comes on, all the time.
Yeah, how have you not?
I've just never watched it.
It holds up surprisingly well. There's a subplot that's not the best, which I won't spoil you on, but most of that movie holds up really well. And I know there's a lot of argument on whether it's a Christmas movie or not, but I maintain that it is solely because there are sleigh bells in the score.
Well, there you go. I feel like that solves it.
I think so.
I also thought everybody agreed that it was a Christmas movie, at least according to the memes that I've seen.
I mean, you're friends with a lot of sensible people. So
that's true. I am. That is true. I always liked the Bruce Willis. As far as I can tell. Yeah, I always liked him, He's all right. He's a good guy.
You have a CD, Bruno?
I don't feel like talking about that. No, I didn't. I didn't have it.
You own it on vinyl.
No. But I told you that I used to love that show Moonlighting, which is where he got his start.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
So, yeah, I was a fan of his. So, yeah, we'll watch Die Hard and Home Alone.
Yay. I'm so excited already.
So I'm
excited about my wedding too, but mostly I'm excited about watching Home Alone and Die Hard with you.
All right. So the important information that has brought Ned to this brothel, because Littlefinger invited him down there, was to tell him what?
That there is another bastard that Robert got on this girl here. The girl had been so young, Ned had not dared to ask her age. And it's kind of confusing because this present is cut in with his, thinking back.
Yes.
On conversations that he had with Lyanna. But the girl in the veil that Catelyn was just with, Maya Stone, is obviously Robert's bastard child. This is mentioned specifically here. I hear he has gotten a child on some girl in the veil. Ned had held the babe in his arms. He could scarcely deny her, nor would he lie to his sister. And the girl that Catelyn meets, Maya, is of the appropriate age.
Oh.
So yeah, she's out here too. And we didn't really talk about it, but the girl says something about how she's going to marry somebody who's a Redcastle, I think is her last name, or something like that.
Right.
And Catelyn feels bad for her because she's like, yeah, that's definitely not going to happen. You don't have a family. They're not going to link their firstborn son to you ever. Not happening.
Earlier. Oh, I wish I could remember. In an earlier chapter, we talked about Robert having a daughter. Mm-hmm. So this is what that is.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So,
right.
This thing about her. Okay, I don't want to talk about that anymore because it's upsetting.
Yeah.
About this very young girl. There's a bit in Ned's memory where Lyanna says something. What the fuck did she say about he's
like, he might love me, but you can't change a man's nature.
Yes!
Basically,
yes.
he's trying to be like, well, he loves you. He would never do that to you. To which she's like, lol, sweetie.
Yes.
He absolutely will. He may love me, and he will also cheat, and those are definitely not mutually exclusive.
Right. Yeah, she sounds already much smarter than Ned.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, yes.
So, when he leaves is when he runs into Jamie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, this part.
I forgot about this girl, too. I'm just sorry. I'm just reading the scene still where she's like, tell him I've not been with no one else. I swear to it. You tell him I'm waiting, won't you? I don't want no jewels or nothing, just him. He was always good to me, truly. Good to you, Ned thought hollowly. Which brings to mind a meme that I saw recently that was about how men who abuse women lower the bar for men so drastically that just not being beaten by a guy makes you think that you're with somebody who's a good guy.
Yep.
And that's low-key what's happening right here. She's just, he was always so good to me. Yeah, he knocked you up and has vanished, but sure.
Yeah.
He sent his best friend to deal with you instead of coming himself. But yes, he definitely is good to you.
Yeah, I guess because he didn't, do whatever the other people were doing.
Right.
That's a really fucking... too, I don't mean to, I can't help, I know every episode I apologize for talking about the show, but I can't help it, and it's just going to be...
That's part of how this is going to go.
I always felt, or I don't know, I didn't always feel because I got swept up in the everything of the show. But I remember in the first season when the bastards were such a big part of the storyline, having this kind of like really gross feeling because there were so many of them.
Yeah.
And they were not... I'm not saying every one of the bastard children needed to be part of the story with a name and a plot. But it was just felt like so many got just thrown away. Mm-hmm. That it just left me kind of feeling really like kind of grossed out.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think maybe I'm supposed to be grossed out by Robert Baratheon.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I think Ned is, like, Ned's just coming to find more and more that he doesn't know his friend that well or didn't want to see him for what he was.
Right.
Because he's just, this whole thought about what the firstborn of Robert's, which was the one from the Vale, he's just, like, realizing, it seems, as he's talking to Peter, that this was the beginning of a pattern, and he didn't really want to see that at the time. Mm-hmm. And then we find out that he had, he got twins on some woman, and it was, like, at a fucking, like, family function or something that, like, was basically this massive insult to Cersei, and she has the children taken and killed. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, pretty well known that she did that. And then there's, let's see, I know he's acknowledged that boy at Storm's End, the one he fathered the Night Lord Stannis wed. He could hardly do otherwise. The mother was a Florent, niece to Lady Selyse, one of her bedmaids. Renly says, Robert carried the girl upstairs during the feast and broke in the wedding bed while Stannis and his bride were still dancing.
Jesus Christ.
Like, trash.
Yeah.
Trash.
There's a bit in the next chapter, in Daenerys chapter, where they're talking about the Dothraki and whether or not how they would, face up against Westeros soldiers and whatever. And I guess it's Jorah she's talking to, and he compares Robert to a Dothraki.
Yeah.
And he's kind of saying it in like a fierce, like warrior kind of way. But I feel like there's some subtext there for us as readers.
And what is that?
Like,
make the subtext text.
That Robert is just barely civilized by Westeros standards.
Yeah.
He is just a hair above being one of these shirtless men who fuck whatever and whoever, wherever, and fight and drink and eat, and that's all that they do.
Yep.
And even though as a reader, I kind of side-eye a little bit about the whole Savage and the Dothrakis and being brown and all that. I feel like for within the story, calling someone just barely a Dothraki is definitely an insult.
Yeah.
And is trying to tell you more about what the person believes is right or wrong or acceptable.
Yeah, because he says it in response to Daenerys asking if the king is a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's trying to not be like, well, he's not a fool exactly. It's more that he has such pride and such like basic understanding of things, which is still, in my opinion, a fool. But it's a different... It means something slightly different, I think. When you say that somebody's a fool, that's not usually the kind of thing that you think of first. So it's just getting a little bit more specific about what that means.
Right. He says to Daenerys at one point that, like, it wouldn't surprise him if Robert came out screaming to fight the Dothraki with, like, a giant axe or whatever in his hand.
Yep.
And it sounds, he's... That is maybe noble in a warrior, but definitely foolish as a king.
Yeah.
And there's another thing that he says too, which is really funny because you can tell how outdated it is. Because he tells Daenerys something along the lines of, Robert would not respect anyone who just hid behind their palace walls and didn't come out and fight. Mm-hmm. Which is clearly not the Robert that exists now.
Yeah. That's interesting actually, because he does, he's hiding from... Ned puts it as, somebody who has grown very good at closing his eyes to things he doesn't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to himself, he is still trying to go out into the tourney and fight. Because
but
Cersei told him not to.
He's also thinking about sending poison to kill a little girl.
True.
And Jorah says, specifically, he would, he's the kind of man that would come out and kill you himself if,
I feel like he would if it were an option with Dany.
I
think the poison is just, expeditious in this situation, but I think that if, Robert were in the position where he could go and go and slit Dany's throat himself, that he would do that and be happy.
He wouldn't even kill that damn dog.
Yeah, that's
Ned
different.
said to his face.
He's got a particular hard-on for fucking hating Targaryens.
Well, that's true. That's true. I guess what I mean is not that he wouldn't kill Daenerys with his own hands if he had a chance to, out of, hate. But Jorah is not talking about specifics. He's just saying, in general, this is a man who believes, like Ned does, in the honor of, I pass a sentence, I have to pass the judgment. Which is clearly not the Robert Baratheon that exists now.
No, see, that's interesting because that's not the same thing to me.
No?
The guy who's I pass the sentence, I have to put out, I have to mete out the judgment. That's a matter of, honor in a totally different sense. That's a matter of honor in terms of your reputation for integrity and ethics. Whereas I don't think that Robert was necessarily that person. I think that he is the person who's if somebody's oh, what are you, chicken? He's the one who's immediately who's fucking calling me chicken? I'll take you right now. It's much more about pride.
Right.
In a childish way.
So
than it ever was about honor in that noble sort of elevated way.
But I think I agree with you there. I think what I'm getting stuck on is not what I think Robert is, but what I think Jorah is trying to express to Daenerys about who he thinks Robert was. And how his description to her seems to be based on Robert the fucking rebellion guy.
I just don't... I'm not sure that if they rolled up right now that Robert wouldn't insist on going out into the field right this second, even as out of shape and hopeless as he is. That still feels like who he is.
Yeah, okay.
It feels like, if anything, he seems to kind of be over his life and would want to go out fighting Dothraki. That would be an ideal, noble way to die that he'd be proud of and happy instead of just dying from fucking heart failure in his bed after fucking too many women and eating too much.
Which to me sounds like a much better way to go, but, to each his own. So, alright, so let's get to because it's getting, okay.
Yeah.
So, fucking Ned Stark leaves the brothel and runs into Jaime Lannister.
Yeah.
Who has gotten word that his brother has been, as you said earlier, scooped up. Which gives me a really funny picture because I just pictured that basket that they were joking about. So in my imagination, somebody just scooped him up in a basket and then ran away real fast.
Oh my God.
And there's this whole moment where he's like, gee, have any idea who could have possibly...
He's just like, you see my brother? You seen him around? I could have sworn that he was like on this road at some point recently, and I don't know where he went. I heard that something happened. Have you heard of anything happening? I thought I heard something. Ugh, he's such an asshole.
He really is. And, of course, Ned doesn't have any choice. He has to be like, yes, and I told her to do it, which is not what happened. Y'all, that's not what happened. He didn't tell her to do shit. But he can't just come out and be like, yeah, my wife is wilding, so...
She is out of pocket. My apologies.
I'm going to have a stern talking to her.
So embarrassing, am I right?
Oh, and so it looks like it's really about to be a thing, a problem. He done pulled the sword out and everything. And Ned basically says, if you do this now, Catelyn is going to kill your brother.
Yeah.
And Jaime's like, I don't think she would. Which I'm like, sir, what? But he says he doesn't think that she would do that because it wouldn't be honorable.
Do you think that she would?
You know what? Honestly, do I think she would order Tyrion to be killed if Jaime had killed her husband? I want to say no, but I'm going to say yes, based on her actions of snatching Tyrion up, based on thinking that he was behind, hurting her son.
I feel like the fact that her snatching Tyrion led to Jaime doing this would cloud everything.
For her?
Yeah. Because she would be, blaming herself as well.
Is she the type of person to blame herself?
I think she probably would in a case like this. I don't know. Maybe not, but I think she would. I fucking would, but I also wouldn't flush a bunch of Coke down the toilet. So.
Listen, we're different people. We're different kinds of people. I don't know if I have seen enough of Catelyn to believe that she would blame herself to the extent that she doesn't order Tyrion's death. I see her in a fit of rage and pain ordering it, and then afterwards maybe really not being able to live with the decision that she made, and then feeling the guilt of how her actions kind of started a lot of this.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure yet. Maybe a little bit later into the story, I'll get a better sense of who she is. But
I mean, there's also the added factor of Lysa now, because she might not have been ready to kill Tyrion if she's on her own, but Lysa and her fucking son chanting "Make him fly," might influence.
That's a really good point. We're talking in the abstract, but she's ready to throw this guy out the door right now.
Yep.
So it's not really that much of a hypothetical, is it?
Yeah. Lysa's like, oh, perfect. I really wanted to do that anyway. Thank you.
So he said, so Ned's like, yeah, you kill me, fucking Catelyn's going to kill your brother, and then what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And Jaime kind of okay, lowers his sword, and I was going to say sauntered, but he's on horseback, so I don't really have, I don't have he trotted away?
Sauntered.
I thought you were going to say he horsed away.
He horsed away. I'm trying to think of a word that combines haunches and saunter, because they both have an aw sound in the middle. He hauncered. I feel like that works. I feel like I nailed it.
Who's gonna stop us?
He hauncered away. Hauncered. Pranced? Pranced?
Prance. I think prance is what I was probably reaching for initially. And right before he gets out of sight, he turns back and orders his men to kill all of Ned's men. And then a bit of fisticuffs breaks out.
Do
you know they still say fisticuffs in hockey?
What?
They still say fisticuffs in hockey.
Do they?
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. The announcers will be like, "Oh, and a bit of fisticuffs breaks out after the whistle."
Do they put that on the screen? Will they type it out?
Oh my God, I've never watched closed captioning during a hockey game.
Well, I don't mean in closed captioning. I just mean it'll come back and there'll be a little banner on the bottom that's like so and so scored in the 4th round or whatever. They say rounds, right? And I wondered if they were fisticuffs broke out in round 3. That'd be kind of fun if it was actually part of the official parlance for the record keeping.
The record keeping is just calls it fighting.
Aw, that's no fun.
It's a bit of a letdown. Yeah.
I don't like that.
Oh God.
What?
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. So Ned loses a couple of really good men. Mm-hmm. He takes a tumble off of his own horse and has one of the leg bones jutting out, which was unpleasant to read.
Passes out of pain.
Yeah. And when he wakes up, even his horse is gone.
It's bad. And can I just say how disrespectful it is that Jaime doesn't even stick around to do any of this shit himself.
Oh, no.
He's just oh yeah, you go ahead and kill his men. I'm going to get myself a coffee.
Yeah. He tells his men that, not to harm Ned. Don't put a finger on him, but fuck his dudes up.
Yep.
And they do that. And
I just picture him leaning against a tree smoking a cigarette and watching this whole thing.
That's what I was wondering. Where did he go to watch this? Because he didn't just completely just go home or whatever.
Right.
He parked somewhere to watch the fucking fallout. I would have. You don't just
call it. Parked my horse. He hauncered away and then parked his horse. Got himself a frappuccino.
My vocabulary to discuss horses is not as vast as maybe the next person's. So.
Granted, also mine is limited. That's fair. Now I'm just picturing him drinking a cappuccino or a frappuccino. I like the frappuccino better because there's the straw.
Oh my God.
So he has the effect of that guy from Insecure.
I was just about to say the same thing. Oh my God.
Anyway.
So, I think Peter is who finds Ned. After, all the people that were watching just, closed their windows and went back to their own business.
Yeah, Peter's let me go get the gold cloaks real quick. And I'm yeah, that's definitely...
He scampered.
He definitely did. And I'm not super faithful about the gold cloaks being effective here because they are part of the royal appointment situation.
Yeah.
And Ned's quit already and Jaime's still part of the family.
Right. So I was thinking the same thing. At first I got confused because I thought the gold cloaks were Jaime's men. And then I remembered, no, they're just the city police kind of.
Right.
And Jaime has his own men that are Lannister men. Mm-hmm. He didn't use Kingsguard to I don't want to say beat up Ned. I guess that's what happened.
That is.
He didn't use Kingsguard for that. Those were Lannister men, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So, because if he used the Kingsguard, that's not his force to just
command.
Send out to rough somebody up in the alleyway. So Peter finally comes back. I can't tell how much time has passed, but it shouldn't have taken that long for him to go get help. So clearly, he just waited.
I love the idea of Peter running into Jamie getting a Frappuccino because he's already in line.
Oh my God.
And now they're standing together sipping.
While they're beating the shit out of Ned Stark and all his men.
And then Peter finishes and tosses it in the trash and is like, all right, hold on. Guys. And he goes in and it's like, oh, God, just got here. As soon as I could, I swear.
Well, he's got like Frappuccino syrup a little bit around his mustache.
He's trying to like get the receipt out of his pocket because it's hanging out and toss it somewhere. I come up with really elaborate scenarios.
You
sometimes.
do. You have a very active imagination. And I think the Eddard chapter ends with him being like taken somewhere for attention, right? Like back up to the castle?
Back to the castle, yeah. And he's being given milk of the poppy for the pain. And just generally is in a bad shape. Yeah,
it's a bad situation. And, you know, we all know whose fault it is. We don't have to keep belaboring the point.
And honestly, when it says he drank the thing that Pycelle gave him and that was the last he knew, I think the first time I read it, I thought that Pycelle had just straight up poisoned him right here.
I mean, he could have.
He could have,
He really could have. It's a, you know, that's an interesting question. Like, why not just take care of this problem right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I guess Pycelle is not the kind of person that acts on his own, and he's more of a rule follower or like an order follower.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So if no one told him, hey, this is a good time to kill Ned Stark, he's not just going to do it on his own. He's got no initiative, is what I'm saying.
Well, sometimes that's what you want, a maester. All right, so Daenerys. Fucking Viserys, man. I was really hoping this was going to be the chapter where he got got, but no. Every
time we go to her POV and he shows up, I am like, oh, is this it? And it keeps not being it. And his mother keeps being alive. And I am so ready for him to die.
Same.
I can't believe it's taken so long.
Yeah, it's really like... I forgot about this extra little piece of bullshit, too. Because it's just such a stupid...
Mm-hmm.
This is such a prime example of somebody who doesn't understand their own situation. He really thinks he's honestly behaving in a weird, like, twisted way, sort of like Ned, where he's acting like, oh yeah, this like position that I'm in is untouchable, regardless of like what the reality is that I'm living in and who I'm surrounded by.
Right.
The fact that I have this promise and this potential throne in my future means that nobody would dare do anything to me.
Right. I definitely agree that he has not properly assessed his situation.
Yeah.
And that he is blinded by his own sense of importance. That people mocking him, he doesn't even recognize it as mockery. Yeah. Like, his brain doesn't even compute on that level. He takes... You know what? And there are people like this in real life, and they're like the worst. Where they take everything as if it was somehow indifference to them or somehow praise of them.
Yep.
Like, there are certain people that you try to insult and that shit just bounces off of them like fucking Teflon. Like, they don't even get when they don't have the decency to understand that they're being insulted.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And he has that energy. And it is tough to listen to.
He gets this like nickname because of walking behind the Khalasar.
The sore feet or whatever, the sore feet king. Some shit like that.
And then the Drogo like like offers for him to ride in one of the carts, which he thinks is like him being like, "Hey, sorry, man, if you want to ride in the cart, you know." But really, it's like, "Oh, do you want to be like one of the cripples or the women in labor?"
And the thing that's so funny about that is it really does become about your perception, because is for anyone in Westeros, probably not just Viserys, being pulled in a carriage or a cart or something, right? Being pulled by animals or other people is a marker of your station, right?
Right.
Like poor people have to walk, but noble people get to ride in a carriage and somebody has to fucking pull them. So for Viserys, this all seems like I should be in a fucking cart. But from the Dothraki's perspective, it's what you just said. That shit is for like people who can't walk, infirm people, and old ladies, and and pregnant women. It's just really funny how, like, just depending on which way you look at it determines,
Yeah, it's about what you value. There's a society that the less you work, the more you're seen to be like lucky and privileged.
Yep.
And then there's a society that's like, oh, you're still like able-bodied and able to work. You should take pride in that.
It's funny because we, in our world, we have gone through similar things. Like to your point about, at one point it was of high status to be plump and to not do to be very pale, because it meant you didn't have to work outside. Yep. You were rich. You got to stay in your house. And then it shifted, and then suddenly, being tan, and fit and outdoorsy became like a sort of a sign of status. Like, you know what I mean? It just switched.
Yep. Yeah, because now it's only the wealthy who have the free time to go play tennis in the sun and
exactly
get fit.
And go tropical vacations or lay out in the sun and just sunbathe or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
I was listening to some podcast where they were talking about how like Jeff Bezos got rich and then he got in shape. And did you see that meme that I posted? I think I just posted it on Instagram, actually. I don't think I posted it on the webpage. I probably should. Where somebody was like, on Twitter, they said, I always wondered why I had such an aversion to looking at Jeff Bezos' face, and now I understand why. And it was a side-by-side of just Jeff Bezos and the guy who played Professor Quirrell in the Harry Potter movies.
No.
They look identical.
Shut up.
Uncanny. And I was like, oh my fucking God. It's on the Instagram for the show. I'll have to send it to you later.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Anyway, that was not
remember
relevant.
it doesn't make any sense to anything, and like people obviously change and age over the years. But I remember forever ago, Jeff Bezos was on Oprah Winfrey's show.
I was thinking about that too. I saw that episode. Yes.
And it was all about how he, had started, and it was Amazon was still fairly new. I mean, it was big enough that he warranted being on her show. It was like making a real big splash. But it was very early in all of his, on his way to becoming a billionaire. And every time I see a picture of him now, I'm just like, is that the same guy?
Right, yeah.
Like, it's like a completely different, like the guy on her show was kind of nebbish, and, just like in a suit that wasn't like ill-fitting, and just like his whole energy and the whole way he was just like a completely different person.
I can't tell you all how quick I would be a different person if I had money all of a sudden. Unrecognizable. It would be like, people would be like, well, you gotta remember your roots. Fuck that. No, thank you. I would like to be in this new pot and not have to worry about my roots. Somebody else can come and water me. Thank you. Anyway. What I'm saying is, I don't deserve to be rich. Yeah. But neither does anybody. So
I was gonna follow it up with that. So there's another one of these really upsetting interactions between Daenerys and her brother, which I'm really
is right.
I really wouldn't. I hope we're almost done with this, because these moments with him And it's weird too, because I know for a fact the story is going to get way worse in so many ways. Mm-hmm. But something about these two, something about him in particular, really gets under my skin.
Yeah.
And it may just be because it's so early, I haven't really experienced anybody else's cruelty yet, and that's coming, I mean, a little bit of Joffrey, but, like, none of the real heavy shit that I know is, like, waiting for me. Mm-hmm. But he is just everything about the way he talks to her and the way he touches her and how he gets, like, right up in her space, like he owns her space. Mm-hmm. It leaps off the page as far as I'm concerned, and I hate it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that really is the thing for me about why I hate him, is that he views her as property, and it's a combo of the complete lack of respect for her personhood that he has, mm-hmm. combined with how pathetic he actually is and fails mm-hmm. to see. Mm-hmm. So it's somebody in that position who is so pathetic and mocked, having the fucking audacity to behave this way to somebody who they've got them to thank for being able to call in a favor at all. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't see it that way because she's just a thing that he just sold like a car. Exactly. He doesn't feel indebted to her at all. She's just fucking payment. Like he just withdrew the money from his ATM and bought mm-hmm. something. Yep. Like, nobody ever feels like they owe the dollar they spent. They don't owe that dollar or thank you. But the thing that gets under my skin even more is that he has been traveling with them for a while now. Yeah. And he's been checked once or twice already. Yep. And it hasn't been enough to make him change his behavior. Mm-hmm. Which tells us just how deep this dysfunction goes. Yeah. His delusion, how deep it goes. Knowing, despite it also this moment when she fucking, puts him in his place is so just... I could just slurp it up. I hate it. It is just so rewarding. But the thing is, in my mind, I'm low-key thinking like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Do you want to die? Do you mm-hmm. have a death wish? Because he's had enough time to appreciate... You know what? Maybe that's just it. I think I just answered my own question. I was going to say he has enough time to appreciate her standing, right? And that he can't get away with treating her like this. But he doesn't, does he? No, he really thinks that he just has to keep it secret from these idiots until his time comes, and then he'll get to do whatever the fuck. And he doesn't because she has to say to him, you better fucking hope I don't tell my husband. Because he'll fucking rip you out from the inside. And even if he doesn't respect her or think she's worth, being respected, I would, if I'm Viserys, I'm fucking scared of Khal Drogo, though. And I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? But he's not. He really isn't afraid of them. Well, he is, but I don't think that he thinks that she has reached a point where she would tell on him. Right. And to a point, he isn't wrong. She defends him for quite a while in her conversation with Jorah. Mm-hmm. To the point where she even is asking herself why she's defending him, because there's just nothing Jorah's saying is actually wrong, and she knows that. Right. But she still has this impulse, because that's what fucking abuse does. It's true. That's exactly. I think that he still has a lot of confidence that he's got a hold on her, and she isn't ever going to toss him to the wolves like that. That's okay. Yeah, I agree with you. That's better. That's much better. I think that is exactly right. It's not that he's not afraid of them. He just overestimates, to a degree, anyway, how much control he still has over her. Yeah. That's really interesting. Because it makes me think, what does an abuser need to see or hear before they get it? And the question is usually, or the answer is usually, there's not much that you can do or say to make them get it. All you can do is remove yourself if you can. It's weird because then there are abusers who are so paranoid that they think they're like losing their hold over nothing. There'll be like an incident that really is not significant of anything, but they'll like react as if it's threatening their power somehow, and it's really not. And then there'll be something like that's very evidently, you should be worried, buddy, and they don't. Yeah. So I don't understand how their minds work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, we're not terrible people for the most part. And I'm wondering. Oops, sorry, Cozy. I'm wondering. He seems shocked when she, pushes him away.
Right.
And and he's doing the whole thing again. Like, how dare you? And you're going to, like, regret this soon as I get my kingdom back, or whatever the fuck he goes on about.
Yeah.
But, I think this isn't the last time he does this. He's got one more go before they kill him.
I don't remember how it goes, to be honest.
I know that if I remember from the show, he does not leave. What's the place called?
Vastothrak.
He does not make it out of there.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I don't remember the incident that leads to him being killed, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah, I feel like there's one more, or maybe she tells him maybe she does tell Khal Drogo what he says. I feel like on the show there was a bit of an outburst. There's one more outburst, and then they do the thing with the gold thing,
right?
Where they pour the pot of gold over his head, and it was awful, but it was awesome.
Ugh,
it was.
Do you remember that in Vikings where they melt the gold and then they pull this guy's mouth open and pour it in his mouth?
I don't know if I've gotten that far.
You probably have, because I feel like it was in, like, the first season.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but honestly, I don't remember it exactly.
That was one of those scenes where... Because I appreciate that as much as you like a lot of the characters, they will show them being horrific human beings. And that was one of those scenes that I just, like, curled up in a ball and whimpered.
I feel like that's going to be like a moment like Lysa breastfeeding, and I just was like, nope, I don't need to carry that around with me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Pluck that part right on out. But other than the terribleness with her brother, we get some nice moments with Daenerys, where she is coming up on the city that's not really a city. Mm-hmm. And they're describing like how huge it is, and that it. What does Jorah tell her? It's big enough so that if they needed to call all the cows home, they could all fit. Mm-hmm. And it's just this like talking about hundreds of thousands of people.
And all the buildings are different because it's like all these captured people just building in the most familiar way they know from where they're from.
Right. It's and we got to see it, on the show and everything, but I thought the description of it here was really cool. Mm-hmm. It had a bit of a weight to it, as far as like how big it was, how expansive, that I don't think I could really capture it in the show because, there's a lot of, like, interior shots, And what was the other cool thing they talked about? What is it? It's all the women. Does Jorah explain to her who lives there? Because she's like, where's everybody?
Oh, because I'm trying to remember what this is. Because, when they arrive, there's, like, clearly people in, like, markets and things. But then when they're out amongst the homes, there's nobody out there. And so she asks where everybody is. I'm trying to find the spot. Boop, boop, boop. Drogo commands me to tell you he must ascend the mother of mountains to sacrifice to the gods for his safe return. And Daenerys is like, oh, thank God. Because evidently...
He's been putting that work in.
He is a very... horny for her pregnancy.
He's a very spirited and lively lover.
I really am fascinated by the difference in men's responses to pregnant women. Like, there are men who really, I feel like statistically, men are most likely to cheat during the pregnancy of their partner because of, I don't know if it's like a lack of attraction or if it's their partner just being like, get the fuck away from me. I am not here for you right now.
I always interpreted that statistic to be indicative of the fact that men are panicking because their wife is going to be unavailable to them for the next period. And they panic and they start looking for something outside to center them again.
That's interesting.
That's just me.
I know that pregnancy porn is like a major...
Oh, yeah.
It's hugely popular. And yet that there are dudes who find that totally unappealing. And I'm just very curious about it. What... I'm interested, for example, how Owen would react. I have no idea. And I don't know if he has any idea.
It's one of those weird things that and this is an odd thing to have a conversation about because I've never been in the position for this to like be a part of my life, but it feels to me like in very casual conversation with the men that I've known over the years, almost all of them, to the extent that they feel comfortable talking about, have expressed heightened desire for their wives while they were pregnant.
Interesting. Okay.
But in media, all I ever see are depictions of men who are not attracted to their wives anymore because they got pregnant or they got fat. You know? So sometimes I wonder how, and then like you just said, I know that like pregnancy porn is like a big thing. There's like a lot of men that have fetishes about that. It feels like one of those things that's like gets reflected back to us that's not true. Yeah. That like, oh, sitcom joke, my wife's pregnant and I haven't had sex in 6 months. Okay, that's a sitcom joke. But in real life, your wife is horny all the time. When she's not having morning sickness, she's horny. So yeah, I don't think that is as true as maybe movies and TV would have us believe.
I'm very curious. Men and women, write in with your experiences of attraction or not during pregnancy.
To Natasha, not to Rashawn. I don't want to hear.
Whenever I say write in, I can guarantee Rashawn is not going to ever see that shit.
It's true.
Because she does not have access to the email.
That's
she doesn't have access to the Facebook page because of spoilers potentially in the messages. So, that's not... Unless you're in the comments on something that you've seen her around already, she's not going to see it. So.
Okay, that's fair. just keep me in mind, y'all. I don't want to know about those
Keep me in mind that I want to be out of mind.
that would go on my gravestone. That sums up my whole life.
Oh, God.
Keep me in mind. Oh, boy.
All right. So, she sends Doria out to shop for food to, like, make Viserys happy, telling her to specifically not get horse meat. He's still wearing the fucking clothes that he got from Pentos, I think. Yep. And it's, like, all of the wrong materials, and it all looks disgusting, and he's sweat so much that the clothes are literally rotting on his back. And she's trying to give him new, beautiful, tailored clothing because she thinks that it will make the people respect him a little bit more if he is dressed better. And it's really another nice indication of how much better at this she already is. That she knows how he is dressing isn't just embarrassing and bad to look at, but a factor in how he's being treated, and that it would be better for him, and he just can't see that. So he takes all of this that she's put so much thought into as a massive insult and just refuses to wear any of it. He takes one of the things that she, asked to be made for him and says he'll use it as a horse blanket.
Yeah.
He's just...
He's a narcissist, I guess.
He's something.
So she is so, upset over just all of this. that she ends up not even eating any of the food that she orders, and she lets like everybody else have it. And she asked, what's her name? Doria to bring her one of the dragon's eggs. Mm-hmm. And she's holding it, and she feels her baby move for the first time.
Yeah.
And she kind of rubs her belly, and she says to the baby that he's going to be Dragon King? Mm-hmm. The dragon, or just the dragon. I forget which.
You are the dragon, the true dragon. I know it.
Yeah. And I got sad.
Yeah. It's a combo of sads, too. It's sad that we know her child is not going to pan out for her. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that we know that she's the true dragon, and it hasn't even occurred to her that she is the one.
Nope.
Like,
it gives right, and she's assuming it's a he, and it just, because of course, like in this world, there's no future that involves her being able to be the dragon. Like, why would she even think that that's possible?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if she had a more accurate understanding of her family history, like that's the other thing too, is I'm not sure. Because, we know that there were Targaryen women who, rode dragons, but, like, does she know that much about her family? Or does she pretty much only know the little bit that Viserys likes to talk, which is mostly just about himself?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know. But it really feels like, in this moment, it hasn't occurred to her that it could even be her. Mm-hmm. And it could be twofold. It could be that she doesn't know that there's a history of women in her family. Or it could just be, and most likely it's just a product of the abuse she suffered. That why would she think she could be anything that special? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit from column A and a little from column B.
And it's kind of funny because when she's talking to Jorah, and she says something like, well, what if, like, my brother sweeps Westeros with 10,000 screamers, and he's like, your brother couldn't sweep a barn with 10,000 brooms? Which is honestly a pretty sick burn. She asks, well, what if it wasn't him? What if it was somebody who was actually strong? And when she says it to our ears, it sounds like she's already thinking about herself. Mm-hmm. But once you get here, it sounds like she's thinking about her child.
Yeah. Yeah, that maybe her child will be the one to like get them home. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's so funny to talk about her, what she thinks her future is, compared because we know like where the show went at least. And I'm curious, what does she think happens to her after the Khal go and like reclaim Westeros? Like, does she picture herself being there, or like going back over and living with Dothraki? Like, I wonder what she thinks her life would be.
What do you think Viserys intends? Because I fully expected Viserys to, if he, succeeded, that he would like try and kill Khal Drogo and then marry Dany.
If Viserys' plan were to go the way he wanted it to go, I think that absolutely checks out, because he's not going to want to be with anyone else but another Targaryen to start the line. So, yeah, he thinks that he can take the throne and then use the forces of Westeros behind him to deal with the Dothraki.
Yeah, he'll use the Dothraki to get what he wants and then double cross them. Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
But like, what does she think? I mean, maybe I
don't know.
Maybe her fear deep down. Maybe one of the reasons why it's so hard for her to give up on Viserys and just like rat him out for the piece of shit he is a small feeling of like, but what if he pulls this shit off though? You know, do I want to keep angering him? If he, like...
I can't help but think from the way that he has behaved with her that him wanting to marry her eventually wouldn't have entered her mind at all.
I would feel like that would be the thing she'd be most afraid of.
Yeah. And I feel like it has to have occurred to her that,
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about that line of thinking as well.
So yeah, that's pretty much everything. I feel like there was something that I like wanted to mention here that I've forgotten about, but I'm looking in the notes and.
While you think of that, there's something I wanted to mention.
Okay.
So I meant to bookmark it so I would have access to it really quickly, but of course I did not do that. So we had a conversation about the Hound and Sansa. And the Hound telling Sansa about what the Mountain did to his face. And our friend, I think I'll use my phone, it'll be easier. Our friend David Keogh shared something in the group. Did you see that?
Oh, I did. And I thought that was a really good analysis. I didn't respond to the thing because I was on vacation. I was like, I'm not engaging with things right now. But, yeah, David commented because we were talking about what an odd turn it was for the Hound to suddenly turn around and tell Sansa his life story right here in this moment that felt like a real vulnerability in a way that was like, is it just because she's a little girl? Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And David's interpretation of the scene was that essentially the Hound saw in Sansa his own like starry-eyed belief in the system of knights and glory and honor and the way that the stories told him things would work out and who was worthy of things and whatnot.
Right.
And he remembered believing that. And then saw his piece of shit, murderous psychopath brother elevated to a knighthood and realized that it was all absolute bullshit garbage. And so he was like low-key trying to do her a favor, I think, in just being like, hey, no, all of this is bullshit. It's not real. You gotta stop believing in this because you are going to get hurt by it and wake up, kid.
Right.
Just wake up before somebody shoves your face in a fireplace, like, or a brazier, or whatever. So, I, you know what, and I agree mostly with that. I think the only thing that I am struggling with is whether or not, like, one of the things David's is clear about saying, too, is that a lot of this may be happening, like, on a subconscious level. So it's not like the Hound is like trying to necessarily be a good guy. He's just responding to something he sees in her that reminds him of himself. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think for me, this came across as cruelty.
Rather than doing a favor?
Right? And it could be my reaction to, because I'm not a big fan of like the idea of like tough love. I'm really not. And it seemed to me like I believe he responded to something he saw in Sansa, but I think his reaction to it was more about chastising himself for having believed those things. Than feeling like, oh, she needs to be warned that, all is not what it seems. I mean, obviously he's right, He was actually, his analysis is 100% spot on. Like, the knighthood doesn't mean shit. These people are terrible. But it felt like that moment where sometimes you'll hear someone tell a story about being a child and vocalizing grand dreams, When I grow up, I want to be a movie star or whatever, right? And then some parent comes along and it's just basically like, get your head out of the clouds. You're never going to be shit, that kind of thing. And that's what it felt like. He's not necessarily telling her she's never going to be shit, but it felt very much to me like that kind of thing. That kind of, I am going to hurt this child, but it's okay because there's a lesson in it.
Right.
And that kind of thing for me is never going to like sit well.
Right.
And I
think that's fair. And I think that, they can definitely both be true. It's like, I'm sort of like trying to do you a favor, but I'm so saturated in bitterness at my own experience that I can't do that in a kind way that's like helpful. I'm going to put all of my fucking baggage on you instead. And then hope that someday it'll make sense to you, even though it definitely won't now because you're a child.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and it is, you know, to my mind, this might be a bit of a leap for some people, but to my mind, this type of lesson is very similar to corporal punishment with children. Like, yeah, you're hitting your kid because they did something that was dangerous and you don't want them to ever do it again, so you hit them so they learn the lesson. But that's not the lesson they learned in that moment when you hit them. The lesson they learned was, oh shit, my mom thinks it's okay to hit me. Or whoever, you know what I mean? And then years later, you look back and you go, oh, you know, I did this really dangerous thing and she was just trying to teach me. I get it now, but, you know. So, anyway, but I thought David made a really good point and I was glad he shared it in the group. And if anybody else has interesting ideas that aren't spoilers or, you know, about wanting to fuck pregnant women, guys, share those in a group where I can see, because those I would love to see.
Rashawn, you just said that you didn't want to hear about the pregnancy thing, and now you're saying share them in the group where you can see.
I said as long as it's not the pregnancy thing.
Oh, I
slipped that in. I slipped that in there.
I thought that you were trying to go back on your word now because all of a sudden you decided you were a little bit interested.
No, ma'am. They can feel free to bring me interesting things, but not the other stuff.
All right, guys. Well, we have gone on quite a long time. I can't get over the fact that this fucking dog has been barking from the moment we started, and it's really still going. It's been 2 hours, and this motherfucker will not shut up. This dog doesn't bark either. This one. I don't know what's going on over there. Somebody digging a hole under the fence?
Shit, somebody fall in a well? On that night.
On that night?
On that note, I meant. God damn it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all again so much for listening and supporting the show. If you want to support us further, you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled in order to become a patron and get access to our communities on Facebook and Mighty Network. If you would like to commission something, I recommend getting in touch with me first, but you can also check out how that works at unspoiledpodcast.com/shop. I've had a few people get in touch recently trying to figure it out, and that's really, there's a button on my page to commission things, but if you just do that, that's also a direct way. And what else? Oh, and I'm going to be picking up on the second book in the Mistborn series this week as well with Miles, so I'm looking forward to that. And thank you all very much for bearing with me while I was on my vacation. I know that there's going to be another one coming up shortly for Christmas, but you know, it's Christmas. Y'all be fine.
It's the holidays.
It's the holidays.
It's the holidays.
And also, warning, like, Rashawn's going to be moving, so there may be another break coming up, depending on how things shake out.
I am so excited. Hopefully it won't be too much of an interruption, but I'll know more as we get closer to it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And by the time this comes out, the very next day, I believe, is going to be... Is that how this is going to work? This Friday? No, next Friday, I guess. Okay, then it won't be the next day. It will have been the previous Saturday. But if you are a $20 and up patron, Rashawn and I do Unsober. I'm trying to do the fucking, like, mental gymnastics of the calendar in my head here. But yeah, we do Unsober usually twice a month, but because of the holidays, we're just doing one in November and one in December. I haven't established a subject for the one that's coming up. So, you know, keep your eyes peeled. But if you want more of me and her and us just like getting drunk and hanging out and talking bullshit about random nonsense, become a patron for $20 and up, and $10 and up you get a postcard. And this month's is the bingo card that I posted on the Instagram and whatnot.
We should have it Unsober where people just write in and tell us better ways to talk about people and their horses, because I think we're going to need that.
I guess you're right. There's going to be a lot more horse talk coming up.
Yeah, we got to get on top of that.
Why don't we have a segment called Horse Talk?
Horse Talk!
For Sean and Natasha. And we'll discuss the ways in which words are used and whatever. That's one of those things that if I were able to outsource my editing, I would do a lot more segments. Because I think they're really fun. It's just it's a hassle to organize it. And so I never do it. The only thing that I've been consistent on editing in music for is whenever you or I fuck something up, and then I have to put the Girl from Ipanema in. Wait music. Did you listen to the last episode when you realized that you hadn't read the final chapter in the 3 chapters you're supposed to do?
I did.
Anyway. All right, so thank you guys again. We love you. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll be seeing you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.